So, Bishop Mark Macdonald, it was an honor to have you, and it's amazing stories you have already brought us with your faith. And dealing with such a manifold situation, you talk about the need for reconciliation, the need for the past, and so many things have been done, and but much more to be done
yes.
ahead. So I would like to, and you talk about working with the indigenous people in the community. So I would, the first question from me is like, how is that work successful? How are you doing? Or can you give us a story of your pastors doing the work? And please.
Most of our pastors in the Arctic, at least in Canada and Alaska, I've found this to be true also in Greenland, are indigenous. And they work, many of them, in a non-stipendiary capacity. The first and most important thing that religious communities could do would be to not interfere with them and let them do their own business. The Western way of doing things is still very prevalent. Cultural dominance is still very prominent. That has to change. The second thing is that they could support these indigenous, this indigenous leadership with the same kind of resources that they supported non-indigenous leadership a few generations ago. They could resource these communities in a better way. These people are struggling on the front line of the impacts of all kinds of social forces that are difficult. And they need the help and support of many people.
So then it leads to the other question is like, because of the intervention of other cultures, what would be the most helpful thing to do if people would like to have some positive impact in the community and, for example, help or be helpful? What is helpful?
Well, I'm sort of repeating what I said before. The most difficult thing, I think, about indigenous communities is the amount of help we get, with quotation marks around it, that is not under the authority and direction of indigenous people. And so we have a lot of effort and expenditure directed towards things that are not particularly helpful because it doesn't go through the indigenous people and their direction. So I think a true partnership is really what we're looking for. And that involves, I think, recognizing that there are deep within many of us attitudes that cripple our capacity to recognize the full humanity of each other, and specifically in Western cultures for the full humanity of indigenous people.
Thank you. So my third question would be like, how can you describe? You've described a lot, and you have told us a lot about the community. Give us a very good picture of that and overview, like you did in your speech. But can you mention any particular by stories how the climate change, the urgent need for that, and the climate change, how is that affecting local communities?
Yeah, well, in the Arctic, particularly in Canada and Alaska, life is not really possible in the Arctic without a subsistence lifestyle. And this subsistence lifestyle is being severely impacted by climate change, and in an overwhelming way. And I think that's been brought up by a number of speakers. But this is having a catastrophic effect. A few years ago, I got to visit the leader, Sidney Huntington. He was a man at the time in his 90s. He's since passed away. He brought me around and he showed me 4 houses that he had built in the city of Galena. I asked him why he built so many houses, and he said, I wanted to show the young people what you can do if you set your mind to it. And I said, oh, that's interesting and good. And he said, there are a lot of hard times coming upon us. He referred to climate change. Our young people are going to have to be very inventive and very dedicated if they are going to survive these very difficult times coming upon us. And I think he had a lot there. Yeah.
So thank you, Bishop Mark Macdonald. I got my cue that the microphones have been moved from the hall.
Oh.
We are running late. I think that is a very good sign, actually, that we are running late. We have so much to say about the situation and this urgent matter of how we can respond immediately on the climate change as it's evolving now. But it seems like we are up. I was going to ask the audience to say some or ask some questions, but unfortunately we are out of time, and I thank you so much, Mark Macdonald, and I wish you the best in your ministry among the people in 1/4, the quarter of the usable land on Earth. You're doing amazing service. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.